Les du fromage.
We're
What does
live.
that mean? Is that from Dexter's Lab?
Yeah,
That was a
dude.
great show.
Yeah, it really was. Oh, you okay? Canadians know Dexter's Lab. Good. I'm glad.
What are you doing, DD?
Les du fromage. All right.
I mean,
Anyways,
that entire episode is just genius. How he gets stuck on that one word, and how like the writers are creative enough to create all these situations that come from it in such short episodes as well.
Yeah. This is all bangers.
yeah, I think he like won a contest or something because the answer was cheese omelet or something.
Yeah, literally, and all the girls love him. The bullies leave him alone. Like, it's the best day of his life. It's like the one episode where he wins, and Dee Dee doesn't mess him up.
Yeah, there was one I was watching recently where he goes to like a Chuck E. Cheese kind of place. It's called Chubby Cheese, and they're like singing the theme song or whatever, and all the characters are like Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like that squid and the fucking those like hillbilly bears and stuff.
Oh yeah,
And like it shows great bait for some reason. Goes stinky hunk of great bait, yeah. And then all the audience like ascends up into the stage, and it doesn't really explain why. It's very strange.
Let's get surreal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, salutations, everybody. Another kind of a weird episode. This is, if you're listening to this now, it's like this was recorded. I don't know, 3 weeks, maybe like 5 weeks in advance, depending on certain things. So this is either going to be like episode 16 or 18. I don't know. But, oh, and also, this is our third guest episode in a row that we're doing. We have Nick from Hessian Firm. Hello, Nick.
hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much for being on, man. And thanks for being on so late. I know it's, you must be tired. It's like 3 in the morning
Don't
over
worry
there.
about it. I'm a nocturnal
Yeah,
black
you'll
metal
get,
man.
you'll get good sleep after this.
That's a spirit.
Hello,
Maybe we'll put him
Fred
to sleep
Paul.
during the podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I'm a man of dark desires.
Well, hello to Fred and Paul as well. Fred, hopefully you don't cut out or get us cutting out in your headphones or something.
I'm sure it will, but I'll just come back in. It's all good.
Yeah, just
Okay,
troubleshoot.
okay.
It's just an
Yeah, I
event
guess,
today. I don't know.
Well, maybe before we get into everything, what have you guys all been up to in the past since Monday?
Oh man, I've been on vacation because my kid's daycare is closed, so I've just been babysitting all week.
All right, that sounds cool. Yeah, like you guys know, I have had a gastritis all week, so I really haven't left the bed. I've been like macking the bed. What about you, Paul?
Okay. This is
Yeah, I know.
NPC Paul here. Let me see what I've been doing. Just playing Dark Souls 2, and I watched that movie Solaris that Vince let me borrow, and it was definitely interesting.
What is Solaris? I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
It's like a Soviet era sci-fi film. Closest sort of thing would be like 2001 Space Odyssey. It's like all in
Is it
Russian.
Same year, like in.
It's like in the 70s, I think 73, 72. So it's a little later than 2001, I think.
So is it kind of the same where they're like on a spacecraft?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
I'm
like
very interested in this.
yeah, they're like on this planet that like has an ocean. Oh, Fred is freaking out. I just muted him for
Like
the
it-
time being.
Was that his mic?
Yeah, there you go. Now it's fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're on this like planet called Solaris, and they have an ocean on there that basically interacts with people's thoughts, and they physically manifest, in front of these people, and it just goes basically there, and sort of like Blade Runner 2, where like they have the androids wondering if they're human or not, and then these like physical manifestations are wondering the same thing. So it's kind of more of like a philosophical movie than sci-fi, I
The
think.
manifestations, is that kind of like a mirage or something?
Yeah, basically it's like a actual physical person, but made from this planet's powers and a mixture of the person's thoughts.
There was another space movie that sounds a lot like that. The same thing happens where like I think it's a big brain or something. An older movie. I think it's called Journey to the Seventh Planet. So like, you know those B movies that look like, I think they're from like the late 50s, early 60s. Those like B space movies where they all like go to a different planet and there's
Yeah.
like all kinds of what do you even call that? Like paper mache aliens and shit like that.
Those are the best.
Yeah, like you remember what was it called? The Angry Red Planet. Do you guys remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one from the Misfits album cover. If you remember that big like spider looking thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Journey to the Seventh Planet. I think the same exact thing happened where like an alien manifests like landscapes and people.
Or even Star Trek too, right? Like in those like
Oh
brain
yeah,
guys.
the big brain guys. Yeah, with Captain. I forget that captain's name.
Captain Pike.
First one.
Yeah.
Pike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing, just watching that fucking almost 3-hour movie.
I'm interested in this and would watch this.
Check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
I recommend
think
the
it's
book
on
as
Hulu.
well. As well.
Oh yeah, Vince is trying to go through the book right now too, but he's finishing The Hobbit before he starts that. But
You guys are all you guys readers? Because Paul knows I can't read. My attention span is like just fucked. It's fried, dude.
I
Alan,
used to
you've got to
be,
get
not
into
so
it.
much lately.
Yeah, I read. How about you, Nick?
I mean, I have to force myself. I remember being a kid and just like getting lost in books. Like
Me too. Same here.
You know what I mean? Like one time, I can't remember. I think it was the first Game of Thrones book, dude. I remember starting at like 10 p.m. and by the time I finished, it was already 6 a.m. the next day. I was like, oh shit, I finished the book in one go.
Yeah, you did it in the city, huh? Shit.
Yeah.
I was the same way when I was a kid, dude. I used to love to read, and then I don't know. Then you just kind of get older and you just stop caring, and then cell phones. You can go on the internet with them, and you can't fucking put your phone down. I like struggling, especially now, just like stuck in bed. I'm like struggling to like watch anything. You know what I mean? Like even watch a TV show.
Yeah, your attention span's squirrely, huh?
My receptors are fried.
Damn. Nick, weren't you finishing up like those Witcher books as well?
Oh, yeah. So I basically stopped those, and right now I'm reading this fucking this Islamic mysticism book called The Language of the Birds,
Okay.
which is like this old kind of Persian poem from like God knows how long ago, and it's really interesting.
Is it something along the lines of like the Blind Owl?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard of the blind owl.
Okay, it's just like some sort of like poem as well. I forget exactly who it's by, but it sounds like something around those lines.
So is that book just poetry, or does it have actually to do with actual like real life mysticism?
Well, basically, it's actually based on Sufism, right? Which is it's still practiced today. It's the Islamic mystical path. So basically, Sufism very quickly, it's like, in Islam they have heaven and hell, right? Whereas Sufis, they don't really care about heaven or hell. Their principle, the most important thing for them is to get closer to God. And the main way they understand God is through Neoplatonic thought. So you get a lot of like Greek, Aristotelian influence in there, Plato, Porphyry, all those guys. And that's combined with their religion. So basically this book, Language of the Birds, is about these birds like all the birds in the world reuniting to go meet the Sirog, which is supposed to be the kind of big bird in Persian, you know, mythology. And it's like them going through these trials and tribulations, and you know, the ending is absolutely iconic because it, you know, it really shows what Sufism is, dude. Like, the ending is so iconic. They even tell you how the book ends on the fucking back of the book. Like, it's one of those, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things that it's so important to understand, to you know, to understand how this mystical system works, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically, so these birds, so at the end, you know, we've got all the birds, like only 40 birds remain, you know, some of them fall to their ego, some of them fall to sorrow, you know, you've got 40 birds that find their way to meet, you know, the Sirog, the big bird, which is supposed to be God. And what they find is actually just a mirror, and it's just the last 40 birds, and they're like, yay, we're actually emanations of God. And they're like, that's, you know, it's like a tale about how Sufism, how, you know, Sufis understand their relationship to God, and they see that, you know, everything is God, but nothing is God at the same time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the only thing I know about Sufism is Rumi, obviously, but haven't dwelled too deep into that shit, but that's sick.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, I had some notes, some things I wanted to ask you, Nick, but I don't know where they are, so I'm just gonna have to try to remember some of this. I think I wanted to ask you. Maybe we did this for the last guest, and it kind of worked. So, I guess for anybody who doesn't know who you are or about your label, can you maybe give us a little bit of a rundown of what's going on there?
All right, so very quickly, you know, pretty much a COVID project, right? Well, not a COVID project, but you know, it was really during COVID I realized, wait, I've got time to do stuff that I've always wanted to do. That probably sounded, you know, too silly under normal circumstances. Hello?
Too silly, as in running a label.
Yeah, you know, it was an idea I had like since I was 17, but I didn't. Wait, am I cutting out?
No,
No,
I'm
that's
just,
Paul.
yeah, I'm just muting. I have this fan
His
going off.
fan is going nuts.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I'm just
yeah.
muting.
Yeah, you're good. Go on.
Yeah, so you know, and then so I started this label. You know, one of the things I got really tired of is just, you know, how metal is understood within this kind of combination of millennial and Zoomer tropes and internet culture. I was trying
What
to
do you
kind
mean
of,
by that? Can you explain that a little bit?
dude, you know, it's like you're gonna get a fucking band nowadays, right? That play atmospheric black metal, but then with lyrics about fucking Star Wars, and people will lose their mind over it for 2 weeks, and
Oh,
you know what I
oh,
mean?
you
Then they
mean
go
like
on to the
any kind of gimmicky thing
Yeah.
to make you stand out, whereas
Yeah,
as the music might not be that good.
yeah, you know, it's not even the gimmick. You know, all the bands we love all had a gimmick, right? You know,
Sure.
it's always been a thing, but it's like these cheap gimmicks, and it's the kind of combination with like this post geek kind of culture we live in. You know,
Ah,
now
okay.
like, you know how geek, whatever. I
Yes.
don't know what the fuck they call it, but this, dude, it's like
This
Marvel
like
movies now.
cool nerdism or something.
Exactly, you know, where it's just
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah, I hate
nerds
that
and like
too.
simplified. You know what I mean? Because you remove everything that's good, and you just fucking, you know, it's all done for these, you know, for the millennials. Because, you know, I read studies that's actually like millennials have a bigger problem with the internet than Zoomers. Because Zoomers
Yeah.
grew up with the internet, they don't care. Like the
Paul, can you turn your
millennials,
fan
all,
off?
yeah. But you know,
Too loud.
it's always
Can't hear.
millennials. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all, and yeah, no, I just kind of got like sick. I didn't feel like identified within that culture, and then, you know, for a lot of some people who know, you know, there's the big DMU slash anus influence that was there, because I liked some of the stuff they were doing, but then, you know, I had a big falling out with them because, you know, they went on about tobacco, and there was some really dumb politics.
I remember
So I
the
just
tobacco thing. I remember seeing like articles about shaving and beards are not cool anymore, so you should shave. Here's what we recommend.
Yeah. And, you know, my issue with like the manosphere stuff, which has become really popular in the last you know, whatever couple of years, dude, is that when you dissect these guys' lives, none of them are fucking the alpha top dog that they think they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, if you want to be that guy, sure, you can be that guy. You know what I mean? There are guys like that. You know what I mean, who have really done it. But what's the fucking point of these politics if you don't represent any of those ideals? And I'm not gonna name people, but this was something that was very prevalent in the DMU/anus crowd, and then unfortunately, a lot of people fall into it. I kind of fell into it at one point, because you think, oh, dude, we've got the Dark Legion's archives. Here are all the best bands that you need to know. It's not even the best bands. Here are the only bands you need to know. This is it. This is the entirety of metal.
Yeah, I remember the death metal underground. They don't seem to like a lot, and even I remember going through some of their like sadistic metal reviews, and they're shitting on like great albums, and I kind of didn't really understand why. I mean, because that's like a later millennial thing, right? The
Yeah.
DMU.
I mean,
That's what anus became, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Prozac's been doing this shit since 1987. Like, he's been on the
Whoa.
internet since 87. Like, he was the first guy doing metal stuff on these old, what they call them, BB boards or whatever the fuck it was back then. Like, these kind of
I have
disgusting
no idea.
forums, dude, like 87, dude, just posting lyrics. And then he started with the articles. So, he was interesting in the fact that, like, he was a reviewer who got to see the kind of, late 80s and 90s Death Black emerge in real time. And, when you really go back on the Wayback Machine on some of those, proto-anus and proto-DMU sites he had, you're like, damn, this guy had a lot of fucking discernment. Because he's praising shit that no one was fucking praising. You know what I mean? Like, this guy was worshipping Demilic in the 90s. No one gave a fuck about Demilic in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
now they're
talking
like a
about all those-
household name for millennial metal guys.
Exactly, like, and then so I was drawn, by the fantastic discernment he had. A lot of the reviews were, let's be honest, in very nonsensical kind of pseudo postmodern writing. Like very long sentences or like 5-6
Yeah.
paragraphs with random words. But then sometimes when he was really passionate about certain albums, like, I see why you like it. I see, and it was a good starting point. But Hessian Firm, just like, in many ways, it was just me growing out of that completely.
I see. Because, I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
guys
remember
kind of take
Anus
a
was
little bit of a... Or go ahead. Go
No,
ahead,
I was
Fred.
just gonna say, like, I remember it being because I started getting into metal around 2000, right? And it was a great resource in terms of bands to look into and check out. Like, I've learned about so many bands from there. Um, but like you said, the reviews were just, it's like they just picked a thesaurus and just grabbed as many words as they can to stuff them into a review. And usually the last sentence of the review just gave you an idea of what they thought of the album, and then you're like, okay, whatever. But I'm gonna check it out anyways, because, like you said, they didn't like a lot of things, and I just like didn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes.
I mean, there's a fun game you can play where you take like albums everyone knows, and you just read a random part of a DMU review, and you figure out what album it is.
I actually have played that game with a friend of mine. I would take excerpts of the review and just like send it to them, and be like, "Do you know what album they're talking about?" Usually has no freaking clue.
But he's a funny guy. I'm not. He did a lot of good. I think the good he did outweighs the bad, and I think he has a lot of great points overall. And I really respect him for being the first guy to make a genuine metal canon, right? Like the way he sees. Okay, sure, he ignores some bands because out of like hatred, he shits on Venom, Death, and Cannibal Corpse constantly. But he was very good in like kind of structuring, in many ways, what are the essential bands, and what metal should be in many ways. But then the problem with that is that a lot of great albums, great bands cannot be described under those terms, or like be held to this. You can't compare like fucking Lycathia Flame to Morbid Angel. They might as well be different genres. You can't, the standards you set for one can't be applied for the other. And that's ultimately my biggest issue with DMU/anus, is that you're missing out on so much by sticking to that very regressive view of what metal should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's interesting. You know, I did get a kick out of the sadistic metal reviews when I found that site. It wasn't even that long ago. I only found them maybe 3, 4 years ago.
Oh damn! You missed the crazy era when things really got out of hand.
Yeah, yeah. That's why this stuff is all really new to me because I never really. I'd like to get all your guys' maybe opinion on this, but I never really was into reviews. I kind of just listened to music for the longest time, and I don't know, coming through and checking out DMU and Hessian Firm and Terminus. And Fred, what you do as well, like so all this reviewing stuff is really kind of new to me. I never really paid attention to it, even though I've been listening to metal for a lot of years. I kind of never paid attention to any reviews. But I guess we can kind of get back to what you were saying, Nick. What was the like golden era or the crazy part of DMU? Because I really have no idea.
Dude, like I wasn't really into them during the height of the crazy era. Like this would have been
What
like
year would you say that was?
something like 2009 to like 2015, maybe 17. You know, like
Okay.
when people genuinely feared those guys, because a lot of those guys there, I unfortunately got to meet digitally, and some of these guys were absolute fucking lunatics. Like the shit like people forget because metal internet was like much smaller back then, much more hidden. You didn't have like fucking. I don't
Social
want to
media and
sound.
Instagram.
Yeah, but like I don't
Metal
want to sound.
sucks.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't have that culture, dude. You did not have 45-year-old single mothers listening to metal. You know what I mean? Now you've got fucking 45, 50, 60-year-old women who got into metal 2 years ago, showing their fucking ebony vinyl 250 gram gate-folded fucking bookcase vinyl that cost them $700 on Discogs.
That's
That shit didn't
crazy too.
exist.
Yeah, I remember before Instagram, I had no idea that kind of shit existed. I was kind of like baffled when I figured that out. Some of the, like you're saying, some of these like single moms and just some of the people that are into metal that you wouldn't really expect at all. That world was always like totally hidden for me.
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily a problem with people you don't expect being into metal. It's more so how they treat it more as a thing to get popular off of. That's what bothers me more. It feels insincere.
yeah, I was gonna say
Okay.
like TikTok metal.
Yeah,
TikTok
like people
metal.
who
Okay.
like there are people who genuinely have channels about the music they enjoy. I like to think my Instagram is one of those. I just post pictures of albums I own and leave it at that. But you have people who plaster their faces all over it with it, and it's really more of a me thing rather than a music thing. And that's what kind of gets me, when they make it more about them than the actual music.
You got your hands in there though. You're holding the CDs. Just kidding.
I'm a beautiful hand model. We all know it.
Fred every day be like, click.
Yeah, no, there's no ring lights or anything over here. I just put it on the same little mat I have in my music room every day. Put the flash on, take a picture, and that is it.
Yeah.
But it's become
The,
so
the only
fucking
reason
weird.
that my pictures got nicer is because I got a new phone.
Go ahead, Nick.
No, sorry, I was just saying it's so weird because one thing that happened like quite recently, which really blew my fucking mind. Like I couldn't believe, like it blew, like every conception I've had of listening to metal. I've been listening since like 2005, 2006. I'm a
Me too.
LimeWire baby in the pure sense of the.
Hey,
Yeah,
me
same
too.
here.
Towpath,
I mean?
strumming
Like,
without testes. Remember that?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened when you try to download some Cannibal Corpse stuff. But anyways, go ahead.
but the thing that got me recently is like, what's the name of that guy of that fucking stupid band? The Moves Like Jagger band. I can't remember what the fuck his
Like
name is.
Jagger?
I know
This
the
band
song, but I
Oh,
could not
are you
tell you.
talking about Death Heaven?
No, no, not Death Heaven, dude. Some stupid pop band. Adam Levine or something. Oh, wait, let me find the name.
Adam Levine? That was 30 Seconds to Mars, wasn't it? Oh, wait, who's Adam Levine?
Maroon 5, apparently.
Maroon 5, yeah.
Okay.
Dude, so what surprised me? So this guy was like flirting with some random women on Instagram.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And when he spoke to this girl who said she only listened to metal, that for me was like a big what the fuck moment, dude. Like you know what the kind of guy this guy goes for? He goes for like the very standard plastic bimbo, right? And even though you don't see the face, when I see like, dude, if this guy's going for that kind of girl, and like these kind of girls are into metal now, I do not understand metal at all anymore, dude. Like I don't think I knew a single girl who listened to metal in like, in 2006, 2007, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Growing up
It's
in
insane.
school, it was like rare.
Dude, people genuinely like called me all kinds of crazy shit, dude. Like people thought that, I had genuine, psychiatric problems, dude. Because I was in a boarding school. I even had teachers who like, they'd hear fucking, God of Emptiness or Rapture bound fucking on Covenant, and they'd be like, nah, man, nah, this is not right. This is not right. You know what I mean? Please turn that down. Like literally, dude. It's like, and now everyone's there, dude. I'm walking the streets, dude. I live in a small town, outside of the major city, and I see kids, 15, 16. They've got the flat caps. They've got the bags, the coats, and then they've got the black T-shirt with the unreadable slam band logo in green. The green font for like the kind of porno grind, whatever
Yeah.
stuff. I'm like, Jesus, dude, I don't understand. And I'm not shit talking them.
Epicardectomy.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But like, I'm not
Put your
gonna shit
grill
talk
on.
them. But I'm just saying, like that for me was not metal in the same way like an '80s guy would not identify with like a bunch of dudes on some random forum in like 2008. You know what I mean? But it's just, I
Yeah,
do think
it's
that
it's interesting. It's different.
Oh, but
I
like,
find the paradigm is it's more about the culture than the music, whereas before it
yeah.
was the music that caused the culture.
No,
You know what I
you
mean?
gotta
Completely agree.
understand, like, this shit's like so cathartic though. Like, I heal, whenever I listen to
You
this shit.
heal?
Yeah, man. Like, fuck.
Oh man, sound like some college kid.
That's what I was
Maybe that's why
going
you haven't
for.
got over gastritis yet, Dan. You need to listen to more healing music.
Healing music, like what's healing music?
Enya.
Enya? What, dude? I don't know what anything is. I don't even know what that is. I'm out of the loop.
Enya. Steve Hughes from
Slaughterlord?
Mortal Sin became a comedian, and he described Enya as silence colored in. That's pretty much the best way to describe it.
Steve Hughes mentioned Enya. Who the fuck is Enya? Is that like an '80s group or something? That's what it sounds like.
No, she's a individual artist. I don't know when she started
Okay,
making
okay.
music, but she's
I
like,
think
it's
I
like just
remember
like
who that is. Yeah, it's like an '80s pop artist.
I wouldn't call it pop
It's not
necessarily,
pop.
but I'm no Enya expert, but
Okay, well,
how, how
I like that you guys kind of
maybe
bring up the
maybe like new age would be
new age music.
yeah. It's like
Remember
very
that song?
very mellow.
Remember that song "New Age Girl" from Dead Eye Dick? It was on the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. Mary Moo,
No,
Mary
I do
Moo.
not.
You don't remember that song?
No.
That was a
Well,
good one, man.
Anyway, let's get back to Nick.
Yeah. Anyways, I like that you guys kind of bring up what is going on with like metal culture right now and all this stuff because I really don't know anything about it and I kind of like the animosity. It's I don't know, it's making me happy. I'd like to hear more about that. What do you guys think of like uh, kind of more modern metal review sites and some of the albums that are getting praised? What do you guys have any anything to say about newer metal bands that are getting a lot of attention nowadays? What would that be?
I'm gonna say like if any of these RYM rate your music writers are here, like one
Okay.
advice I have to a lot of people is like, um, don't try to be Prozac. You aren't Prozac, okay? Like you cannot physically smoke the amount of weed necessary to be Prozac, dude. Like we're talking about a man who repurposed an iMac and made it into a bong. Like that's how much weed he smoked, and he was on big magazines for that. You can look that up. The iBong. So no, you are not pro. I mean, Now, I'm not saying that, like, I don't think that's the norm, but I've seen a lot of, like, wannabe Prozac-isms where it sounds like, hey, we're going to take a DMU review, translate into Russian with Google Translate, and then translate it back into English, where it kind of read like English. You know what I mean?
So what would be some what bands are popular right now? Do any of you guys know metal bands?
Black Braid, unfortunately.
Oh
Black
yeah.
Braid. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
of
they're
them.
getting a lot of attention.
I've the one thing that I've heard that people have maybe some issues with is that guy takes a lot of selfies. That's all I really know about the band.
I
He
haven't
got
actually
interviewed by the
heard
New
them.
York Times. Like, that's what's fucking crazy to me. It's like,
You got an interview by the New York Times?
yeah, like that you know, the music in itself is mediocre. There's nothing wrong with it, but like, is this the fucking representation of metal? Is this the best they can find? Is like, is this guy who, dude, what he's doing is panopticon, but with like, you remove the banjo and the Louisiana culture and all that, and the bayou, and
Yeah, I
then you
remember
just add,
Panopticon.
and you just add, what's supposed to sound like, I don't know, like Native American music and some kind of old spaghetti western.
So kind of what Volon is doing, but taking it to very much less metal version aesthetically or something.
Dude, it's like, dude, I don't know. There's a lot of narcissism, which really makes it hard to understand the aesthetic, where it's like some kind of look at me, I'm a rock and roll black metal Native American.
Yeah,
Isn't
it's
that cool?
more about identity than like the music and shit.
And the one that really gets me these days is Sanguisugabog. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. I don't care. They released that first EP on Maggot Stomp, and I heard it was good, so I picked it up, and it was fine. But then the memes and the jokes and the merch started getting churned out nonstop, and they released that first album, and it was terrible. And I know they have a second album now, and I haven't cared to listen to it. But to me, what really kills me is bands that will put out like a song or a demo and then just like oodles and oodles of merch, like baseball caps, shorts, t-shirts, beer koozies, keychains. Like, you guys don't even have an album out yet.
I think this is probably the third time we've brought up this group of bands, Sank Suabog, Frozen Soul, and Blood Incantation. What are the like influences that these bands? Because I know that these bands they get a lot of hate and not a lot of people like them. But where are they taking their sound from? Maybe especially like Sank Suabog. Where are they coming from? Because I've seen interviews with them. They look like a bunch of like hardcore guys. I don't know. I don't like their look. I'll just say that.
I do think there's a lot of hardcore influence when it comes to Blood Incantation or even Frozen
I've
Soul.
always had an issue
The
with the
the
hardcore
hype
thing.
drives me nuts. Like, I can't stand it. Musically, they don't bother me. Like, they're fine. I like Blood Incantation and I like Frozen Soul. But Sanguisugabog I generally don't like. It's like just the most mundane, generic death metal you can possibly think of. When it comes to those other bands, I might not be praising them as much as a lot of people do, but I mean, I still like them.
So where do you think they're coming from? Like, where are they getting their sound besides hardcore? Are they coming from death metal or what is it?
Dude, I think it reminds me of like the third and fourth Obituary albums. The dun 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 dun.
Mm.
Kind of like like chugging nursery rhymes. You know what I mean? Just like holding the one note. Dun 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 dun. Dun. That's what it sounds
Chugging
like
nursery
to me.
rhymes. I'm
And
using
it,
that from now on to describe these bands.
that's just my if people like them, people like them. But that's just my personal interpretation of it. Where it's like the kind of one note. Dude, it reminds me of that kind of 90s period, early 90s, when a lot of the thrash bands were going into groove metal, like Overkill. Then you had bands
Prong,
like Grip
maybe.
Inc. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Prong did it with actual panache, with style. But I'm talking about like
Yeah,
kind
Prong is actually pretty cool.
yeah, I'm talking like
I'm
shit
not a
like
total groove metal
Testament,
hater. Yeah, Testament. Did you like
Demonic
that later
and Low.
stuff?
The drums got better in the 2000s.
Okay.
But like I'm talking, like that early '90s stuff, and it's just that, and then you got some guy going, "Urr, urr, 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 urr," and they put so much fucking reverb on it, and you're like, wow, he's angry. And then, dude, and then fucking, what does Sanguisco bog mean, dude? Sanguisca is the fucking, it's the word for leech in Latin, and bog is literally what people in England call a toilet. That makes no sense. The whole gimmick is lazy, man. Like, sure, okay, I get it. People are like, yeah, but it's fun. It's fun. Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Is the gimmick because I saw one of their music videos. It's like I don't know. Weed seems to be a big part of their aesthetic. Smoking weed, dude.
I think they're smoking weed and are watching like some fucking porn shit at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I just don't even pay attention anymore. I don't really care about any of those bands or any
But
of that shit. I like what I
when it
like.
comes to blood incantation, though, I do hear where they're coming from. Like I do hear like Time Ghoul and Demulek and that sort of thing in there. Uh, to me, it's just all the people that have decided they're the next big thing and just blown them out of the water. I don't necessarily think the band is responsible for that. I think they're just kind of doing their own thing.
I think I would just say on a personal level, blood incantation. I don't like the looks of these guys. That's all I can say about them.
Yeah, you care
Um,
for the aesthetic more. And it seems like there's people coming outside of metal doing, their take on it, which isn't very good, and that they're bringing an audience with that doesn't really understand what they're maybe influenced by. Like we
Yeah,
can say the same thing
exactly.
about like deathcore, where it was they're doing like Slayer death metal riffs, and then they're also adding obviously the breakdowns and shit into it, and people are more into it for
That's the way
y-
I felt in like early high school about
yeah.
deathcore, and nowadays I don't even pay attention to it really.
Yeah, that's well, I like some of that shit, but that's how I feel about more
Ooh.
this new brand of fucking death metal, I guess.
Oh, okay, I see. All right. Well, to maybe get off the negative topic, maybe get on a positive topic. I wanted to ask you this too, Nick. Are there any bands that you're really digging these days, old or new? Any releases?
You know, if you don't mind, I just thought of something that reminds me of those bands.
Go
What's
for it.
In
that? Go ahead.
England, in England in 2000s, there was this band called Amputated, right? Now, Amputated were
I think I remember them.
fairly
They did the
standard
TV show, right?
singing with the enemy, which I remember seeing on
Yeah.
BBC back in the day, dude. Because I lived in England, right? And this was a time when the BBC was actually kind of very creative as a kind of TV thing. So when I was doing nothing at the time, there was no social media or anything. You just watch TV, waiting, to get on to the next thing with your life. And I remember watching the show with them, and obviously it was very staged, but like the way these guys were just sat there smoking weed and watching like fucking gory films and porn, like that's how I see these guys today. So
As a parody.
yeah, but the
Yeah,
thing is
it
that
seemed
was
like
really fun.
Amputated was acting like a parody themselves.
Yeah, I mean the whole concept of the show is like, hey, let's get two bands, two groups of musicians from completely different genres and put them together. And they actually did a song with this
The Pop
pop
Girls, right?
group. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
I
what they
remember
were
that. It
called.
was funny.
Yeah, it was like something Angels, Bob's Angels, Charlie's Angels. I don't know, Fallen
Bob's
Angels.
Angels.
Fallen Angels.
Yeah,
I like
Fallen
that
Angels.
name. Bob's Angels. It's almost like Bob's Big Boy or something.
Dude, it's fucking hilarious, but
He
this
changed his
it's a
vocals on that, I
shame.
remember.
Yeah, for a more what he called mainstream metal voice.
Fuck yeah, brother.
And I remember in the show he was kind of pouting because he didn't want to do it.
And they got him in like this hip hop gear as well for the live performance.
Hell yeah. Yeah, they got him in some epicardectomy gear. See, now that's voluntary. Or
Literally.
they do it on their own.
Dressing
Yeah,
like
but that was
juggalos.
that was my little sidetrack, and I think you can find some of that. And then there were other similar things. I was like, this girl death metal band. that were put with this fucking like cock rock kind of glam band, and there's like some really funny stuff on that thing as well.
That sounds funny.
Yeah.
A cock rock, glam rock band, and then a girl death metal band. That does sound funny. It's like kind of the opposite gender bending whole thing where it like equals out.
Dude, it's fucking hilarious, man. Yeah. So the band was called Severed Heaven, and they were with Lethal Fix with two X's, male sleaze rock band.
Sleazy. That sounds cool. Severed Heaven. Are they on the archive here? Can we look them up? Yeah, here they are. They all look very sad, especially the second girl here. She looks a little depressed.
That last girl's over it though.
Last girl, yeah, she's been over it for decades, dude. Fucking mummified.
That was quite a funny thing, dude. And it's like, and it's quite contrary to bands like Crypto, Nervosa, whatever the fuck, or Arch Enemy, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure, they were
That
an
was that
old,
girl that
old
was
girl
crying
band.
at the Beyonce, right?
Yeah, but these girls, I really appreciate about them. I can't really remember their music. I don't think it was anything special to write home about, but they genuinely did not care about their gender, and they just wanted to make that kind of music. And like, that's something that's so rare right now. Well, I'm not saying it's the women's fault, but the way that these labels, PR agencies, and the fans treat them, you know. And these girls were different. I have to go back to their album.
Do you think that's a big part of selling points now? Is all girl death metal band or something like that?
Dude, you know what? So the thing with the Beyonce girl. So funny thing, I remember I saw her with a band.
Oh yeah, they're all
Brazilian-
girls, aren't they?
Yeah, Nervosa. I remember
Hmm.
seeing them. They were opening for. Who the fuck were they opening for? I can't remember, dude. I went to see some other. Dude, I went to see some other band and they were opening. And everyone like this was before they were famous, dude. Like barely, and everyone went crazy for them. It was like, oh, it's the big booby Brazilian women, right? And like they barely had an EP or whatever at the time, dude. Like, and then 2 months later, I see they're signed to Nuclear Blast, and then I catch them again, dude. This time I'm outside smoking my cigarette because God knows I'm not gonna listen to that crap twice. And they've got a big record label, and the clothes are different. Everything's a lot more revealing this time, a lot more professional. You've got like obviously rehearsed stage moves and shit. And then when the band break up, they somehow splinter off into two all-female metal bands. You know what I mean? Like, dude, we're literally getting into what the fucking casting agencies were doing with pop bands in the 80s, right? Into metal.
Yeah, all those like
Yeah, I mean,
plants and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And dude, not to be too negative, but this stuff does piss me off, man. I want to hear a couple of young autistic people making the music that they love.
Yeah, we don't want to see big fucking tits.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I wanted to ask Nick, is there anything you're listening to right now that's really oh, you know what I wanted to bring up? Actually, that something you did an article on, the Cripator Satanarda from Japan.
Yeah, man, that was Paul that sent me that ages ago.
Yeah, I assume so because he sent it to me too.
Dude, that EP was crazy, dude. I remember scouring the fucking internet for something like it, and I genuinely believe there is nothing that sounds like it that came before, and nothing that'll sound like it after.
No Japanese Vikings, man.
I really liked when it like that song, the first song like shifts gears and it goes into like a melodic death metal riff.
Oh yeah.
Just like kind of out of nowhere. It's like like from the Order from Chaos kind of riff into like this mellow death riff. I really like that.
But, dude, that song is so sick, and it's got like what 3 riffs, but it's got like a lot of weird kind of breaks. You know when they're playing that first Order from Chaos riffs,
Yeah.
and they cut it up like 10 million times with all these different fucking fills every second.
Yeah, there's like different variations of that. I remember that. It's funny. We were talking to Roman of Cromlech, and he was saying, well, I don't know why we were talking about Donkey Kong again, but I think he was talking about the band Nazgul, saying like there's a part in there because it's like a symphonic kind of black metal band. And he said there was like a Donkey Kong part in there, and that got me thinking about this band, the Crifator Satan Arda. And I sent it to him. I was like, "Here, dude, check this out." I gave him a timestamp. I'm like, "Donkey Kong," and he goes, "All right, I'm only gonna listen to the Donkey Kong part."
That's all you
So
really
that's
need to
funny
hear.
it's funny that that came up like twice within a few weeks.
Dude, it's fantastic. Dude, those synths, man. Some people tell me that they aren't convinced. I'm telling them, nah, bro. This is what we need.
I don't really see how anybody could not be convinced of an EP like that. It's really something. I
Yeah,
liked it immediately.
like what you were saying, Nick. Like having, three autistic guys playing music. They want to hear. That's exactly what it was.
It's a bunch of dudes from the beach in Nagasaki who want to be Vikings, bro. And they've got like literal anime song titles. Battle Shore Front or whatever the fuck it was called. The second song.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those guys have a side project that they did a demo for. I think maybe a couple years earlier. It's actually really good too.
Oh, was it the Holocaust Winds?
Yes, I believe it is.
Yes, yeah. I remember some guy sent me that in the comments. I was like, damn.
Yeah, that has some really epic moments on it too. Would recommend.
But yeah,
Holocaust wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other recent listens that you've been into?
so the newest Samoth really impressed me. I was like,
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
bro, because honestly, Jan had been sending me the demos for that for the last 2 years. He'd send me all these sketches. I'm like, damn, this could be interesting. So I got to see the development of it from the early stage to the final mastered version. I was, damn.
Oh yeah, because
He really
you're in
pushed.
contact with the main guy of Samoth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you know,
remember
we,
listening to your interview a while ago.
yeah, dude. He's a great guy. He's very humble. I got into Samoth through DMU because for people who don't know, in 2014, Samoth was like DMU's kind of this is the future of metal. This is the best band of the millennia, right? With the album Godless Arrogance. I remember getting into that, and like I think, maybe one of the reasons I stayed with DMU for so long is because I think if they're able to make such a, for me at the time that was a great prediction because Samoth is genuinely a band that I really love. I was thinking, damn, yeah. So I stayed in contact with the guy, and I think he's brilliant, dude. He just puts out gold.
Yeah, his stuff is really good, and that's how I discovered Samoth too, was from DMU. They kind of talked about how he had been around for such a long time, and yeah, I was surprised. I had never heard anybody really talk about them before, and then discovering your label and that you liked them too, I was like, oh, well, that's makes sense. Because at first when I discovered your label, I didn't know you were affiliated with DMU either.
Yeah, I'm ex DMU, dude. That like, you read the articles out, the stuff we're praising, DMU wouldn't even look at. Like, dude, it would be like 2 lines and then SMR. This is why you burn the food before you eat it.
Yeah, yeah, like the Satan Arta, they wouldn't like that, right?
Dude, they would shit on it because it doesn't have neoclassical, Wagnerian, interweaved matrices of chromatic hatred or whatever.
Yeah,
That's why I look for
I
my
don't know
music.
any. I don't know what any of these rules mean. I don't really even, Paul can vouch for that. I don't really even know how to play guitar at all. I don't know anything about it. It's just, you hear you hear what you like, and you kind of do something from there.
I mean, most DMU talking points aren't really that complex. Once you get into the culture and you're going through the comments, and you're seeing what the fuck people are on about, and you've got a lot of bastardized takes from various books, ideas from the Romantic era, and then some like kind of stuff that came from like jazz. They've got all these crazy like ideas, but then you realize it's pretty much simple, and they're always on about the same thing. It's like development. You know what I mean? Like everything's got to flow logically and coherently. I'm like, and then I realize like, nah, man, some of the best metal stuff is like, you've got riff A, and then for some riff, so no fucking reason, you've got riff B that comes along that has no relation to riff A, and the song is just fucking, it just kicks ass. No one cares. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes good stuff that flows, that's good, but sometimes, you need something that just kind of snaps into a completely different fucking mode.
Not all good stuff
Riff,
needs
riff per
brains.
riff. No, no, definitely not.
But then the thing is, when you go back, a lot of the stuff that DMU likes does have some jarring transitions. Like, does have some like genuinely nonsensical kind of you know, parts, right? Like even Mayhem. What was that? There's that song on De Mysterious. It's on the It's on side B. What was it? It's gonna come back to me. What was the song I'm thinking about? Buried by Time and Dust. You know, it's got this riff, and the riff just ends because whoever it was Uranus just plays this random chorus like bing dong. It's like this random change, or like this fucking chord that comes out of nowhere, and it's just a big riff change. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There's a lot of stuff like within
Mayhem
the
feels
DMU
like
camp.
that in general. I would say a lot of their stuff feels nonsensical, but that's good. That's okay. I like shit that's nonsensical, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of great stuff, dude. Like, there's ultimately my issue with them, and I can never stress this enough, dude. It's like, if you contain art into something very specific, then it's there's never going to be any fucking progress ever. You have to be able to kind of let things grow and see what comes of it. It's like experimentation. You can't guess the results before you do it. You've got to be able to allow your vision to expand. Obviously you're not going to accept everything, dude. You're never going to get me to say like, oh, gent is the future of metal or blah 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 whatever. But just opening my eyes to a lot of different things helped a lot, I think.
Yeah, I kind of touched on that with Roman. I think the first time we talked to him, we were both basically saying the same thing. Like it seems like a lot of the newer bands that are getting popular are the ones that are following a specific formula, and for us, that formula is boring, I would say.
Dude, it's not even a good formula because as cringe as this sounds, but the kind of mid 2000s metalcore formula was in many ways like that was genius, because in all of music, right, it's like quiet verses, calm verses, and loud choruses, right, up to like grunge. Even some thrash metal songs had that. Some of the death metal bands were doing kind of like melodic shit, like melodic refrains and all that. But the metalcore bands, they had like a decent formula. Like, I'm not a big fan of that style, but I recognize that harsh verse and then melodic chorus was a much better formula than whatever the fuck people are doing now.
I would agree
like,
with that.
I don't care, like, a lot of bands follow a formulaic approach. I don't really care, if the formula leads to something good, dude, then you can have 6 albums with the same formula, you know what I mean? If as long as there's enough interest.
Speaking of metalcore, I listened to that song by that new band you guys are releasing, Complete Snake. That's basically like a metalcore thing, right? That's what I heard.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. But it's like the what do you call it? It's like the part of metalcore I really enjoyed was like the kind of over the top, emotional, oh, my stomach hurts, help me, I'm gonna die if you don't help me in the next 5 seconds kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Overly sentimental, the overly dramatic, as well, with the early emo stuff, so, like some of these bands, like AFI, you know what I mean? Like now I listen with adult ears and like, dude, some of these songs were fucking fantastic. There was a lot of like basic bitch pop rock stuff that you hear on the radio. I'm like, comes in one ear, goes out the other. But then they had some songs where it's like, Jesus Christ, I actually like the urgency and just how, not even desperate, but how it's like a cry for help to everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think those guys do that well, and they're obviously very inspired by At the Gates, which are, the early stuff I love. And I think they managed to combine that all of that really well, and they've got also that kind of 2000s metalcore humor. We have the song title was like I don't know, man, this desk won't fit the both of us, and then the lyrics are like, baby don't go, I was wrong that day. You know what I mean?
I
You
saw
know
their,
those bad.
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. The all the kind of scene core humor of maybe 2008, 2009.
Which
Yeah, they seem pretty
to be
cool.
honest, yeah.
Hmm?
And to be honest, like that kind of those bands like As I Lay Dying, I Killed the Prom Queen, fucking
I set my
Atreyu,
friends on fire.
Dude, I prefer those a million times more over Sanguiskabog and
You know
Frozen
what?
Soul.
Me fucking too.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
real.
I hated that stuff back in high school, but I'm seeing I kind of miss it now that it's not here. You know what I mean?
I'm
Yeah.
still wary of bands whose name are a full sentence.
Come on.
I mean, I always liked the more melodic side of those bands where, where a lot of those guys were obviously listening to a lot of pop, but they wanted to be tough, hardcore guys, so they would do the good
Yeah.
cop, bad cop stuff. But but then I remember like in 2010s when gent became a big thing. A lot of those bands lost that, and I think it just became a lot more streamlined, and now it's like whatever.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
more.
I think
I was gonna say that that whole genre is just based off like the guitar tone and sound and shit, rather than being like a theatrical unit.
Yeah,
I was gonna say a band that kind of would fit into that, like kind of escaping the free flowing version of that kind of scene would be like Between the Buried and Me. It seems where it gets more streamlined, I think.
dude, Between the Buried and Me is just like dream theater for emo kids.
Yeah, Dream Theater isn't very good either. I mean, I kind of like their first album. It's pretty wacky, but yeah, they kind of don't do anything after that.
Yeah, with the older singer, yeah, like that album is really unique. There's nothing quite like that in I mean, what do they call it, white collar USPM,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like Queensryche, Fates
Oh yeah,
Warning.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that like
The-
prog type shit.
Yeah.
It's like prog power metal, but with like a touch of glam in there.
Definitely. And I think when Dream and Day unite, and I think the thing that was really interesting, it was not the same keyboard player. It wasn't Jordan Rudess. It was this guy called Kevin Moore, and like his keyboard lines were a lot more interesting because like he wasn't as technically as accomplished as the other guy, but he was like more inspired by stuff like Toto and I don't know, Aha, and like that kind of poppiness made it sound better because
Yeah,
it's like with
Aha's
power
great.
metal that there's a lot of power metal is very pop inspired, and I'm not talking about the fucking ho 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 want a bottle of rum kind of shit like on Nuclear Blast. There's stuff like that has like 50 million views, and you're like, dude, I've never heard of this fucking band. It's like that. The Terminus guys were talking about this band called Windrose, which is like World of Warcraft dwarves with songs like Diggy Diggy Hole.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah,
What?
it's like Napalm Records stuff.
Yeah, literally, but like, I know an album I absolutely love, dude. I've got like 2 copies of it on CD as Operation Mindcrime. And like, you cannot tell me that's not a pop album. Like, it's fantastic. It's a great album, but it's definitely a pop album.
That sounds familiar. Who is that?
Queensryche.
Yeah, that's like the
Oh, is it?
concept album.
Yeah.
How late is that one?
87, 88, I think.
7? Yeah.
Oh,
around
okay.
there.
Come on, man, get with the times.
You got into a bit of Queensryche, right, Paul?
Yeah, I was getting into. all
Yeah, I
that
think
sort
I
of
only know like
prog shit.
the EP and the album. I don't really know anything else after that.
The AP is really good.
Oh God, my stomach hurts. Somebody help me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Queen of the Reich is a beautiful song, man.
The Queen of the Rock.
Yeah, maybe we should get into even more beautiful stuff while we're gathered here for.
What
Nick's
we're
pick.
gathered here today.
Yeah.
Is that like that Prince song? We are gathered here today.
Sure. But yeah, Nick, you want to introduce your pick for this discussion?
It's gonna be My Dying Bride as the Flower Withers. Like, God, I love that album. So obviously, an essential part of the Peaceville 3. This came out in like 92, if I remember correctly. And it's like, and in many ways for me, this is like a lot of the, I know it's a Death Doom album, but it's one of my favorite kind of romantic albums. You know, the stuff like under the Hessian firm name we've always called dark metal, right?
Yeah.
And this is a prime example of it, but obviously it's done through a Death Doom language, and more specifically, it's kind of like, you know, a lot of Death Doom stuff was because they weren't fast enough to play grindcore. So you hear a lot of like napalm death riffs, bolt thrower riffs, and I'm talking like In Battle There Is No Law, bolt thrower, you know, that kind of period, Carcass, you know, all the stuff on the John Peel's radio show and napalm death, but all of that slowed down. So they've got the heavy riffs, but then they've got these fantastic, man, you know, keyboard melodies, right? No, dude, no, it wasn't even a keyboard, dude. There's an actual violin.
Yeah, that was a
right?
violin.
Yep.
Yeah, and it
Sounds like so dissonant on there.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought the
you know,
same
you got
thing.
the-
I was gonna bring up Bolt Thrower as well.
Yeah, I definitely felt that.
And there was one part where they do a straight up like Napalm Death grindcore riff on this. It's like a one-off thing.
There's a few faster parts on this album. The Bitterness and the Bereavement, which is the last song on the side A, has quite a few fast riffs. You know, the simple kind of bolt thrower stuff. You know, like.
Yeah, that
Which
song's
works
really good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Personally, I find the whole album to be beautiful. You know, the silent dance, the instrumental, and the way it just leads into fucking the drum intro of Sear Me. You know, it's not complex, but it just sounds so fucking good.
No, that shit's unique as fuck. Like, it sounds like maybe like a proto, like sort of like deathcore breakdown with it. You know, they're obviously not chugging along with the double kicks, but you know, they're
Yeah.
leaving it open for him to do that, and it's so sick.
I mean, yeah, everything. And then they even play that break in the middle of the fucking song with just the vocals as well.
Oh yeah, that
mean-
part's
Oh, yeah,
fucking.
With just the drums and vocals.
Yeah. I mean, the whole album's great, dude.
Yeah, I know you were in between Disembowelment and My Dying Bride. What made this pick stand out more?
You know, I love Disembowelment just as much, but I think My Dying Bride has maybe, you know, it has something that's been like a lot of metal bands have tried to do but failed, like British Victorian horror mixed with like erotica. You know, 'cause
Cradle
it's a
of Filth.
very yeah. I mean, Cradle
There's
of
a
Filth is
nipple on the
fantastic.
album cover.
But like, even, you know, a lot of the lyrics on this album are about sex. You know, it's like being sad, horny, and angry at the same time.
Okay.
The only feelings, yeah.
You know, the final song, like the ending of the album, dude, is like what's it called? The Return of the Beautiful, and the ending is literally, I can see from your smile you're not here for the sunset.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, homie's about to have fun. He's about to smash. Like, that's literally what that line is. Like, that's how that
She's
album
here
ends.
for the cack.
Yeah.
Isn't there a line in there where it's like very clear where he says, she sleeps with the earth, my dying bride?
Yeah, that's on that song as well.
Yeah, that's their theme song then, I guess.
And obviously, there's a song on the album. What's it called again? Erotic Literature. Which
Oh
I
yeah.
think, is that on the main album, or is that on the?
I think
that
it
was
may be
only
like a
on
bonus track. I listened to it too, and this
Yeah.
following song too.
I never realized that. I never realized that this album was about sex and nipples and stuff. I guess the Sear Me title kind of falls into that as well, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Sear Me.
I mean, you know, he literally does say nudist, which I'm guessing means nude at one point.
The
The whole
nudist?
song's in Latin.
Oh yeah.
And then
Oh, okay.
And then obviously, the bonus track, which was actually, it was on the original album, but they didn't put it on the vinyl. It was only on the CD version. You know what I mean? Like the lyrics, the brilliance of erotic literature, enlightenment of the whore.
I see. That is interesting. I never knew that. I didn't know bands were trying to kind of get on that same level either.
Yeah, it's like
But
a
yeah, dude.
romantic, this horniness, not so porno grind about it. They want to treat their women
Yeah,
well, huh?
a little bit more tasteful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it just reminds me of that Victorian stuff where, like, we can't say this stuff really out in public, so we're gonna try to be subtle about it, but, my loins are aching for your touch, kind of thing.
Yes, my loins.
Yeah.
It's very sophisticated stuff here. I always thought when I heard the name My Dying Bride, this kind of gets to what Fred was saying too. It's like bands with like a sentence for a name. Listen, that band name almost sounds like it could be some kind of like deathcore or scenecore
Yeah.
type of band, but it's something totally different.
Yeah, I always felt that way when I would come across the name too before I, checked him out. But, when I did, I was, pleasantly surprised with it. And, I definitely put them, mm, like second compared to, Paradise Lost, but above Anathema. But I think I just need more time with them. But I've always enjoyed what I've heard from My Dying Bride. And this one was definitely it wasn't quite like funeral doom, it was more along the lines of just straight death doom, where they'll even have like the faster paced parts, like Sempiternal Death Rain and shit. Like they'll switch
Yeah,
in between
yeah,
shit. And like you mentioned before, like the grind riffs in there, and using those components slowed down. That shit's way more interesting than what I hear just like chorded riff, like drone or something, And then these vocals are like fucking one of the best, I think, in
yeah.
death metal.
They're pretty interesting. I don't know why. I kind of want to compare this band to On Thorns I Lay, if you guys know who that is from Greece. They seem to have kind of the same vibe going on with them, even sound wise a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've heard them before too.
But I still like that. Well, comparing them to them, like a lot of bands like this that kind of enter the like gothic type of death doom stuff. I like that this one is still a death metal album, even though
I feel like it's
there are a
like
lot of the
I feel like it's right before they go into that gothic territory, because obviously the next album is when you hear more of that introduced, at least in the music. Like sure, the themes and
yeah.
the
What
lyrics
is
could
that
be
one
about
called?
that.
Like Turn
Turns to
Loose the
Swan
Swans or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that one more who's coughing out there? Isn't that one more like clean vocals or something? Like more of an actual doom metal record?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's like when it transitions more, where this is definitely more death metal oriented. Like it seems like they're focused more on like the orchestration of the songs and
Moron.
where it's going, rather than just playing the fucking sick riffs like they are in this one.
You know, I kind of wanted to talk about that very first riff on Sear Me, that really like slow single note emotional riff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I just really like that. It sounds, yeah, it sounds really like Finnish to me. Something a
Dude.
Finnish band would do.
Dude, straight up, like their melancholy is like reminding me of like Finnish death metal, like Sentence and shit.
Yeah, or like Necrobiosis would do something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Or like, I think Pertinence kind of does stuff like that a little bit on their first album.
Yeah, where it's like in that just their single note melodies are just like off, like not so on the nose, but like you can feel how fucking morose they are. and shit.
Yeah. Fred, Nick, you guys know which riff I'm talking about? The very first one that opens the album.
Oh yeah, of course, dude. Dun, 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 dun. And then they've got like some polyphony going on where the other guitar's playing something completely different, and you've got the violin
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
horns on, and the background, and it's just like, oh, dude, it's fantastic.
I always loved riffs like that. The single note um the single note emotional riff in death metal. And I was kind of thinking like where does that come from? Who was the first band that really does that kind of thing? You know, because we're
Dude, I
talking
think
about some of the Finnish bands that do that.
it's such a classic metal trope, dude. It's like you find it from everything to Black Sabbath did a lot of that, Maiden, Priest. It was something that I think that was just part of the language from day one.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. There's a pretty early one. I don't know, Nick, if you're into like 70s lesser known hard rock bands at all.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
like any of that kind of stuff, like
Oh,
Dust
of course.
or any of that stuff? There was a band from the Netherlands. They were called Cargo. Uh, Maybe you can look this up later. But they have a song called "Sailing Inside," and this is one of the earliest versions of this like single note, like held note, emotional type of riff. It's much more upbeat on the Cargo version, but I think that may be like one of the earliest ones that I can find. Maybe besides Black Sabbath, because I don't know that Black Sabbath does it quite in the same way with like the harmonies and things. I know Thin Lizzy does it a lot too.
I mean, yeah, like, have you heard any '80s Thin Lizzy stuff?
Yeah, I think I've heard
Like
everything
full
from
on,
Thin Lizzy.
yeah, full on heavy metal, like by the early '80s. I
Is that
love that
like
stuff.
the Thunder and Lightning album or whatever?
Yes, exactly. With songs like
Yeah, that
Angel
one's
of
really cool.
Death, Holy War, and
Is that their last album, The Thunder and Lightning? Yeah, 1983. I
mm,
think that might be their final one.
damn, for some reason I thought they continued. Wait, or do they just have like 10 million compilations, like
Yeah, there's a lot of shit
unreleased?
that comes out after that. Because I think their front man died. When did I think he died like not too long after this album. If I might be mistaken on that, but I think that's why the band isn't around or
Damn,
wasn't around after that.
posthumous releases, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Phil,
yeah, yeah.
Phil Lynott,
Phil
dude, like
Lynott.
that guy. Yeah, he's a fucking legend in Ireland. Like I know they have statues of him.
Yeah, I heard that. But I was gonna say with this album, like at this
Baby,
point,
please don't go. That's a good one. Sorry.
I was gonna say at this point, it doesn't seem like there's so much of a template of like what Death Doom, um, you know, is now, where it's obviously just like the slow down tempo as well as
Very, very formulaic.
yeah.
While this is kind of free flowing, and they're pretty much doing whatever they want.
Yeah, it's like it seems like
Even though
this is
there's
like up for grabs, like this
yeah,
this whole
yeah.
genre, um, and just
Even though
playing.
they have the like narrative riffs, I feel like the riffs are more of the album narrative rather than every single riff. You know what I mean? Like, not every single riff is the money riff. There's a lot of just strange maze, like like what death metal is. A lot of weird structures.
Yeah, yeah,
I like
exactly.
that. I like that this album is still a death metal album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was like, I forget which song it is. I think it might be "Return of the Beautiful" or something, or one of the longer songs. But it's like towards the end, like it goes silent for like a minute, and then it comes back with like a whole new up tempo fucking death metal riffing and shit. I'm just like I'm trying to think of it like objectively. Like I think that was like a good idea, but I don't know if they should have maybe split that song into like another one, because I don't know if it had any real callbacks to what they were doing before, or you know.
Yeah, I don't know that these songs need callbacks. Oh, there's the dogs. Get them dogs.
Jesus Christ, my dog can hear that, and I've got my headphones on.
Was that Fred's dogs?
That was Fred.
It sure was. Little fuckers.
I hadn't heard Fred for a while, but I heard his dogs.
thought that was you're playing K9s or something.
Yeah. K9 is
But, you know, it's funny
nice.
because my for whatever reason the sound would cut out for me and I'd stop hearing you guys, and I had started saying something and I don't think you guys heard, so I rebooted
Uh-uh.
the clean feed again, and well, it's working now apparently because you guys can hear my dogs. I hope you can hear me. That's good too. But I was saying like because we had mentioned that it was kind of more of a free flowing sort of thing at this point because we had Death Doom already by this point, right? Like we had Delirium, we had Dream
Yeah,
Death, a whole bunch of
exactly.
bands,
We had
but
Sempiternal Death Rain.
Yeah, I think they were the
yeah,
first.
but we didn't have, like you said, a hard and fast definition for it, and so it's kind of a free for all, and bands doing whatever the hell they wanted.
Yeah, that's kind of why I compare them to On Thorns I Lay, because they have the same kind of narrative, but with On Thorns I Lay, all you get is the narrative. With this, you get some other stuff. You get some stuff that sounds like a bit Swedish with some of the grooving, like mid-pace stuff, and you get stuff that sounds
To finish it.
like yeah, a little bit Finnish, and you get stuff that sounds like fucking Bolt Thrower, and you know, not too far off. It doesn't veer too far off from these points, but yeah, you get like a weird grindcore part, and then you get like that adventure rock beat where it does that.
Yeah,
I forget exactly how the riff goes, but it's a kind of a weird one. It's like then da da da. It's almost like a Bethlehem type of riff, dark metal.
dark metal shit. Yeah.
Ooh, see,
Yeah.
full circle. We did it.
Another fantastic album.
But yeah, like Dan, what do you think of this album when you're I don't know if this is how many times you listened to it already, and like what you get from it, and what you like from it, other than
Well,
the points you were talking about.
Yeah, I kind of said my piece already. Um, if I could say anything else about this, I guess what's interesting to me about it is what you guys were just talking about. Like, where does this come up? What kind of where does the romantic gothic death doom really come from? And who's this? I would like to say this band is one of the first because they're doing stuff from this, or they have at least one song from this album that's on a demo from '91.
Yeah, I mean,
But then you,
I was like hearing like fucking Typo Negative. They're like coming out like 91 too, with like having that sort of like really gothic sounding shit along with their yeah, and they got
oh,
like the
you know what I
girls
was
on it.
thinking? You know what I was thinking too? That I would say is kind of a Death Doom record, even though a lot of people don't consider it to be. The fucking the first Cathedral record, I think, may have something to do with this, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Dude,
Oh yeah,
that's Lee Dorian, dude. That was definitely an influence on everyone, dude. Considering, I think he was on like side A of Scum, if I remember, by Napalm Death, which was like the classic side that everyone took from.
Yeah, I remember something really weird about Scum. Isn't it like side A has one lineup and side B has a totally different lineup?
Yeah, exactly, dude. They're not. They might as well be different bands. And then everything, everything after that features no original members. Like this is a band that got famous without any original members in them.
Yeah, it's really weird. It isn't one of the original guys from fucking Godflesh.
Justin Broderick, was it?
Yeah, is he one of the OGs?
Dude, he might. Dude, there were so many people. There were so many people in that band. I mean, I'll check quickly. Let's see. Oh,
I remember
fucking
hearing
hell,
too that.
man. Yeah, dude, he was there in 1985. So yeah, he's definitely OG.
Okay, yeah, yeah, because I remember recognizing him in one of the old. Everybody had this T-shirt. I remember in high school that the Napalm Death. Can't remember what the name of the release is, but the cover is just a picture of them in black and white. And I remember recognizing Justin in it.
hmm. But yeah, Fred, do you want to say your piece about this album? What when you first listened to it, and all this, what were your takeaways from it?
Yeah, I've had this album for quite a while, and when it comes to the Peaceville 3, I'm like you. I tend to default to Paradise Lost's first album. That one has a really morbid flavor to it that I enjoy. Um, but I find
It's
this
got a really
one,
cool robot on it too.
yeah. But for My Dying Bride, the
Looks like he's giving a
aside from
Roman
all the
salute as
influences that
well.
we've spoken about, the juxtaposition of beauty and dirty death metal is a really cool approach that hadn't really been done, and that's probably my favorite thing about it. Because like you look at the themes and the titles and things like Vast Choirs, Return of the Beautiful, they're not very death metal titles and themes, right? Uh, but they blend it together so well and it works, and that's why this album really does it for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it seems like all these, like this album in particular, like deserve like a Christian Wayland cover.
Yeah.
I think
You
the
know,
cover kind of
I have to
fits.
say of all the bands in the Peaceville Three, My Dying Bride are easily in the top three.
Gotcha.
You know, that reminds me of a DMU quote about like later Dark Throne. Dark Throne are one of the best Dark Throne inspired cover bands out there.
Makes sense too.
Ugh.
Isn't Anathema kind of similar to this in the sense that like it's got a romantic narrative, but that's not all that's on the album. There's a lot of actual death metal in there. The first Anathema album, or
I
the
find
fucking gold one.
mostly on Crestfallen.
Is that the one I'm talking about? Is that the first or the
No, you're
second?
talking
It's
about
got like a
Serenades.
It's an EP, yeah.
yeah. I'm thinking of Serenades. Yeah, but isn't that kind of the same where like it is a death metal album? It's not just like a doom album with like death metal vocals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I feel like it just has, those doom parts in it rather than being like whole, like central to, um, all that they're doing. It's just something that they do well. I think even with My Dying Bride.
Yeah, you know. Now that I think about it, I think Autopsy may have some of those like emotional single note, like mournful kind of riffs too.
Ooh, yeah, dude, especially in the grasp of winter. Like I'm thinking like the first two Autopsy. You know, when they were less like punk inspired.
Oh, dude, you know who else? You know what other thing could be compared to this? Like pretty on the nose, I think. Decomposed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Oh,
for sure.
oh, not bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause they seem to have all the same formula, other than the lyrical theme. But it's still kind of close. It's not. It's a death metal theme, but not in the way that you usually kind of get that. It's like in a mournful kind of. You're at the cemetery saying bye to Mama or something.
yeah, they're from the same fucking country. So I don't know if it's like some location sort of thing, but like these guys just get sad in a different way.
Yeah,
It was definitely kind of a micro scene, wasn't it? Because even Cradle of Filth's demos are kind of in that wheelhouse.
But you
I
know,
don't
there are
remember. I
some.
thought that. Or go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you know that those kind of themes are going to be very popular because, when you have such a cool part of like British, you know, culture that is based in that, where the whole gothic thing, the whole romantic thing, so many fucking books. I'm thinking, John Milton's Paradise Lost.
Yeah,
I'm thinking like some, well, technically not fully English, but within that kind of the Anglosphere, uh, Oscar Wilde had some kind of like weird, short stories about these fucking puppets and like brothels and all that, and stuff like Jack the Ripper, and then, a lot of the bands that were popular in the 80s, also what I'm thinking, Killing Joke, had that kind of gothic, dark stuff going on.
yeah,
Depeche Mode did it in a very, very accessible way, you know what I mean? Like, dude, you put on like a random Depeche Mode song and you'll get people in a nightclub like to this day dancing, right?
yeah.
But then you listen to the lyrics and like, damn, boy, what made you so angry?
It's true though. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be the same for British bands, right? They have a rich history, and we see it with Scandinavian bands and Viking themes and whatever. why wouldn't British bands use, Victorian or whatever part of their history they would want to see? And even through to today, bands like A Forest of Stars really take that aesthetic and keep it going, even if they don't sound anything necessarily like these guys.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of like Genesis with the, you know, selling England by the pound, where the like you
Oh
could
yeah,
you could
that's very English.
yeah, you could feel all that, Anglo-centric like ness about it, and these guys are just coming from a more like what Black Sabbath did, because they're also very morose, especially on that first album.
I guess the violins make more sense now to me now that I'm thinking about it.
No, you didn't like them or what?
No, no, I kind of thought they just seemed to come out of nowhere.
It
But
was it was
I
like right there at the beginning.
I don't. Yeah, but to me, it felt a little bit out of place. I'm not sure why. I'm starting to get where they're coming from on that.
This is totally out of left field, but there's a British band called Seclusion. They only released one demo called Skies Veiled in Black, and it's kind of a Black Doom sort of thing. That was always giving me a really Victorian, mournful kind of vibe to it. Might be worth checking out.
Hmm.
See, skies veiled in black.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check this out.
But yeah, some other things I was like, maybe what they're sort of getting this from. Obviously all the gothic stuff, and we can mention um, like Celtic Frost and all that. But there's like another like Swiss band that was sort of in the lines of like the UK crust scene. Sounds kind of like Amoebics.
Roxy Music.
Bloodstar. Do you remember I showed you them, Dan?
Yeah, didn't that
They were, like,
have
more
like
thrashy
somebody
and
from
shit.
Celtic Frost or something?
I don't particularly remember, but
That was that blue album cover, right?
yeah,
It was like thrash but really slow.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so I was like hearing some of that, as well as
What are
like,
they called? Bloodstar?
yeah,
Okay.
and then in the colonnades too, like just like gothic sort of metal and shit. Uh, but I'm not really sure entirely like where these guys were getting, like even just like the death doom, to even do that, because from what I hear, it was like serpentinal death rain, and trying to think of some other earlier ones
I
besides
think
like,
Decompose is pretty early too, isn't it? Don't they have an EP in like 91 or 90 or something? And I think that's
Delirium's
pretty early.
album came out in
90.
1990.
yeah, Delirium
Yeah,
too.
see, there you go.
I think like who else is early? I don't know if it's necessarily like anything that they would come across or take influence from, but like Doomsnake Cole, as well as like I mentioned earlier, the fucking Typo
Boom
Negative.
Snake Cole.
Yeah,
That's somebody from like Goat Lord or something, isn't it, right?
I think so. It's just like, I think it's from like '92, same year, but these guys were recording this at the end of like '91 into '92. That's like when they actually released it.
Well, the Dutch scene had a really strong Death Doom influence overall, right? Like
Yeah,
Acrostigon, Necroschisma for sure. Whether or not they heard these guys, I don't know, but there was a lot going on over there.
yeah. That's what I was saying. I was like, I don't know if it's obviously like contemporary or a little earlier than that, but they were. I don't know. They just did it in like a much more regal, romantic sort of like an English pride to what they're doing with their music. Like we were
Yeah, for
touching
sure.
on. But yeah,
Didn't you talk about Sear Me on like Terminus or something? Or some show?
Nick.
I I don't think so, honestly. I can't remember. Maybe I did. I don't know. It's such a fantastic song, dude.
Yeah,
I never get tired of it.
Yeah, I could have sworn you were on a show and you were talking about Sear Me and you guys played a sample and you were somebody was saying that a lot of this is probably coming from like crust punk. So, like even the slower parts are coming from like sludge or something like that. Does that make any sense?
Dude.
Is that ringing any recollection?
That would be something the black metal guy would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he's really versed on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and all that that crust and axe grinder, Meebix type
Yeah.
shit.
You know, the only thing that I've heard like Greek crust punk, which literally sounds like Greek black metal, like even to the vocals, the Iron Maiden melodies and everything.
Oh, really? I
Whoa,
haven't heard any of
I've
that.
never heard anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's like, dude, it's really it's really insane, like how similar some of that stuff really is.
I'd be interested in hearing that because I like a lot of Greek black metal. That's kind of a fault. If it's from Greece, I'm probably gonna like it.
Oof, Macabre Omen, like that's one of the later bands that's been fucking fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about them a few episodes ago. Macabre Omen's really good, and the Vampirinacht We Will Be Watching album was actually really good too.
Yeah, bunch of great stuff.
But yeah, maybe this should be the turning point in to where we listen to the song that you picked. If you want to introduce that one, Nick.
So this is the final song on the album. This is absolutely beautiful. Could have been actually, you know what? It could have been an inspiration for God of Emptiness by Morbid Angel, to be honest.
Mm.
It's like the only song I can think of where it has that kind of a similar vibe to it. But anyway, like without going into that, dude, it's just a long epic with a lot of it's got 3 movements,
Yeah.
a lot of emotions, and it's very varied. You know, despite like how simple some of these riffs are to play, dude. It's a fucking banger. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, let's get into it. All right, we're back
Okay.
from listening to that, and you're saying that you felt like the grindcore influence is just definitely in this
all
track,
over
right?
all over this, I think. Not just this track, but all over the album.
Yeah,
I really I'm assuming that Bolt Thrower has a lot to do with this.
yeah. I was just saying like, well, Nick made me think about it in a different way where he mentioned that there was like the three movements in the song, and I don't know, when I initially listened to it, it felt more like out of place for me to have like these songs kind of like, it seems like they're all crammed into, the one song, but I think that is like, I don't know, like it made me think about it a little bit more different, where it's where I kind of understand it and accept it a little bit more, rather than questioning like, oh, why is this third song, like they obviously ended the song and then they stitched on this last leg of it,
Yeah,
which
with like
is
a different
interesting.
production.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's weird. I when I listened to this, I didn't realize it was the same song because I wasn't like looking at the track listings, and I this album isn't like I don't know it back to forth. I've only listened to it before this maybe a couple times, like
yeah.
years and years and years ago. So yeah, I really did think that was like a whole different song. I'm like, is this a bonus track? What is this, like something from a demo? What is this?
Yeah, that's like, because I wanted to get into like the question of like, I know now it's sort of like the trope for death and death doom, funeral doom, blah blah blah, to have like these long elaborate songs that are minimum 10 minutes long. Like,
Hmm.
do you feel like they were trying to establish that, where they're like, for this song in particular, having like those three parts that could be their own sort of separate songs in a shorter duration of the each song, and then just having it all in this one. Like, do you feel like that's kind of started that trend of like having these long ass fucking songs?
Maybe.
Because I know, like, obviously, like it goes back to like prog rock and
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
where like
yeah. You
songs are
have
like
like
20
20
minutes
minutes.
and
You
yeah.
have "Thick as a Brick" from Jethro Tull. That's like 30 minutes long.
Yeah, where it's, yeah, exactly. So it's just like, I think I'm more in the context of Death Doom. I guess I'm
Well,
asking.
I mean, I read like a short interview with somebody from the band that worked on this album, and they said they straight up wanted to do something different that no one else has done before. So that's kind of their goal, and maybe they kind of figure since this is a very narrative driven album, maybe it's kind of going with that, like a storytelling type of thing. So in sense, you have like some songs that are very very long.
Yeah,
At least
I,
Sear Me and the last two,
I actually just looked it up. It's a five-part
oh,
song. So the first part is the silence,
like
and
chapters, kind of.
yeah, then it's the sadness, the lust, the battle, the return.
Or I think
oh, you don't think
Did
nothing,
Fred cut
huh?
out again?
Well, I'll step in his place.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, as you were saying, Fred.
I don't know
Oh
where
yeah,
I
you
cut
cut
off.
off.
I don't know where I cut off, but I'm not going to repeat myself. But
Yeah,
Sound
I
like
think
an
that's where you
angry
were.
dad. I'm not going to repeat myself.
Lol. He's
told
not
you
a
once,
kid.
I'm not telling you again.
Yeah, I said it once. I'm not saying it again,
Uh,
buddy.
Well, maybe we should get into like the last words of the album because I know we have that
Rip
big
it up.
sample to accommodate. So,
Yep.
Fred, while we have you, you want to talk about it?
um,
Keep it easy.
yeah, I find that as a whole, I tend to forget about My Dying Bride, to be honest.
Damn. All right, that's where he's
That's
gonna
it.
leave it. That's where we had him. So, Dan, what's your thoughts on this album?
Uh, I think I would put this in with just the giant classic catalog of classic death metal albums. I don't really see this as that avant-garde or that separated as a doom metal thing. I I think I would put this up there with like Demi Lich and with maybe Dismember and just kind of the classics. You know, all of our favorites. I would put it up there with that.
Put it in the canon, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
like how it's a death metal album. I like that it's got its moments of some of this like romantic doom kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, good stuff. Next album is next two albums are also very good for different reasons.
yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's just like one of those, early death, death doom sort of albums that like had, more of a, range of where they can go and what they could do with their sound without, being like prohibited or hindered by like the tropes of what Death Doom has become to be considered that, or
Yeah, because they don't exist
yeah,
at the
and I
time.
don't think they were even concerned with being,
No,
being
they
that.
wanted to. Yeah, they wanted to do something different.
Yeah, exactly, and it started a whole array of bands along with their label mates,
Yeah,
doing the same thing. Then a
yeah, and
couple other,
it's kind of launched them into their own career pretty much.
yeah,
And
and
I can't really talk any shit about their career. I kind of like a bit of all of it. So yeah,
yeah,
it's all cool.
and Nick, you got any final words about it?
Oh, dude, I know. I just love this album so much. No, honestly, final words. You know what I like about it is that you know there was a lot of like passion in getting the right things done. It's like there are no synths credited whatsoever on this album. Everything's done naturally.
Yeah,
They didn't have to go too far. They didn't need gimmicks to get what they were going for. It was very, it's a very like thematically and aesthetically, it's very fleshed out, and there's nothing too complex going on here. You know what I mean? On either instrument, it's just a fantastic performance from everyone, from a band doing what they really love, based around themes that are very important for them. You know, they're not pretending to be like big gothic authors or anything, dude. It's like we're really into this kind of stuff. We're into death metal.
they're just
We're
horny.
also very horny.
Yeah,
Yeah, like how do we mix this up in a logical, or in a logical way?
make some Death Doom.
Yeah, when you said no
Yeah.
synths were credited, I thought you said no simps were credited.
Well, maybe they return to the beautiful. That's kind of simping.
Yeah, are these guys simps or what?
Yeah, kissing on the bare chest, bare
You mean
breast.
every simp was credited?
But yeah,
No shade, no shade.
Nick, you got anything you want to promote or talk about? Let us know about the label or what you got going on before we head
Yeah,
out.
what's
All right, so
going on?
all right, so next release is Complete Snake. So I know like guys you would have seen of like records like Apocatastasis, the Galicia, the Cold Crypt. Um, what do you call it? We're playing around with a lot of styles, trying to find cool different bands that are out there. So if you're willing to kind of look at like how At the Gates could have done a more metalcore style or anything, check out Complete Snake. They've got the weird humor, they've got everything, but they do it. I think they do it right, at least for me. So check that out, and then obviously you can go to our website that has everything. We've got Raphael who writes fantastic articles. We've got interviews, we've got a podcast, we've got everything going on for us. So, you know, that's
Yeah.
about it, really.
He definitely got me into that comic book about the manga where it's like going in and out of sort of realities and shit. That was a great one.
Oh, yes, that was the one David did. Yeah,
Violators or
yes, literally, yeah, by Electron Frass, and then the guy was interviewed as well on the website, like pretty insightful one.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great thing to check out, and I always read your guys' reviews because they're, short and sweet, and they get right to the point rather than
Yeah,
fluffing up.
We just try to say what we have to say, and say it as quickly as possible. It's like, I know, I really can't stand reviews anymore where the guy's like, well, this reminds me of the time when I was in my office eating a carrot, and I was lying down and I thought to myself, and then I stumbled upon this CD, and oh, bro, just shut the fuck up. No one cares how you fucking discovered XYZ band, dude. Like, let's be honest. Some guy told you to check it out on a Facebook group, and you did.
Painting a picture in my head, guy in a carrot.
Yeah, I know, dude. Like some of these reviews I've read, like, bro, I do not care about your life. Like,
Yeah, it's
dude,
like those like cookbooks. They're like, oh,
Yeah, but they're like, you do care about my life.
yeah,
Don't say that.
but
dude, it's like, I just want to know: is this album good enough or not? Is it? Do I need to listen to this album or not? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like that's not really why we do this. It's not like should you listen to this album? It's more like we like this album and we're just gonna talk about it.
yeah,
I feel like
That-
that's
that-
more the vibe here.
But that's honest. That's respectable. Like, that's
Mhm.
how music should be done, dude. It should be done from a place of passion. And I think the hardest thing for a lot of people is like, you're gonna have ego, dude. You need to have pride about your own music, about the stuff you do. But if you take this stuff seriously, you're gonna have pride and ego. But it shouldn't be about you and you. You know what I mean? Like, the individual needs to be a conduit for the music, if that makes sense.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say
I'm just thrilled we got
you
called
kinda-
respectable.
respectable. I wanted to say, Nick, you guys reintroduced me to Soren because there was the longest time where I couldn't remember the name of that band. I knew the cover, and then you guys posted it. I'm like, oh, thank God, there it is.
No, dude, you got to thank the black metal guy for that, because he was on and on about them, because
Oh
he's
yeah.
a big Swedish black metal guy,
Hmm.
and he fucking loves Soren. Like, but he prefers the first album more, but he's just a big fan in general.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely is. But I guess last thing I wanted to have your take on what we did with the precipice, because I felt like I never really got your take on it, other than you guys obviously releasing it.
Oof, dude, I was very, very impressed, right? I mean, I think what I love the most about Precipice is just how ambitious you guys were on that one. Like, I know I don't know how the hell you got into that. There was like a lot of crazy stuff, and I can't wait to see what you guys do more of it, because I think it does open up a lot of like pathways. Because there's like a mixture of everything on that album, right? There's a lot going on, right? Everything, like even the vocals, there's like 10 million different vocals. You had the falsetto screams, you had like demi-lick vocals. I really like a lot of the melodies on it, but yeah, dude, I think it's a fantastic first step, and hopefully, it should lead you guys into even bigger things.
Ah, thank you.
Oh yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, we plan on doing some more stuff. I don't know if Paul let you know, but we're actually working on a compilation CD for our label, and
Oh, nice, yeah.
like a one song per band kind of thing. Like 16 different songs or something. And so we're kind of experimenting with that. But Galicia is going to make a comeback on this thing. So we'll see.
Nice.
We haven't started with that yet, but the idea is there, and hopefully that thing will be out by the end of the year or something.
That's sick. But you know what's funny? Dude? It's like a lot of the ideas on like Precipice were very similar to the Warrior's Chalice that you guys sent me, which is also really good as well. And I was like, dude, reminds me so much of like Cromlech / Into Oblivion. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You mean both bands?
Yeah, yeah. In that.
Yeah,
the
dude,
heavy
I
metal
thought this.
band.
I was wondering if anybody would kind of make that comparison. I swear, none of that shit was on purpose. It really wasn't.
yeah, the Serpentines were
Yeah. When we did the first Khaleesi, I didn't know who Into Oblivion was. I had never heard of them before.
yeah.
Dude, because it's funny. Because, dude, when I heard was it Serpentine Dissension, I sent it to them immediately. I'm like, dude, we've got a band. I think they're genuinely inspired by you guys. And like, whoa, no way. And they listen to it.
That's right, no way, because it wasn't true.
But we were all convinced for a while, dude. Like, damn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The guys from Terminus were saying the same thing, and I'm like, oh man, that's just a weird coincidence that I happen to choose that. The title kind of came from the Nuclear Hammer album a little bit.
Oh yeah, by the way, I want to say we still have like I think 2 Serpentine Dissension CDs left. So 2 people, move your asses and get one.
Yeah, there you go. All of ours on our end are gone, so that's almost 100 copies out the door.
Yeah, maybe
man.
Fred can buy them.
Yeah, Frank can buy the next 2.
All right, we're out.
Yeah.
Now you tell me it don't matter if you're black or white, but do not underestimate the power of the dark side. You may be good or bad or ugly. I don't care, cause life is ebony and ivory.
Run like cannons in the wind. Sense of honor and curiosity.